compelling topics tonight that is going to be helpful to everyone tuning in. My name is Stephanie Johnson. I'm the founder of the S. Denise Johnson Foundation Fibroids Research Fund, as well as this Warrior Women's Fibroids Forum. As we delve into our forum tonight, I want to start with this affirmation. And I saw this floating around on Facebook this week, and it really inspired me. And I thought about our Fibroids Forum, so I wanted to share that with everyone tuning in tonight. And the author is Rune Kazuli, and the affirmation is this: I am blooming from the wound where I once bled. I am blooming from the wound where I once bled. Now, this means that although there is an injury, hurtful events and circumstances happen to us and in us, healing also happens, although sometimes we are injured by circumstances. Now, the injury or the hurt is translated from being a present danger into a very present fruit of passion and beauty. Here, we are changing the narrative from the injured and wounded womb of uterine fibroids to a lush garden birthing forth fruitful and passionate purpose. So that is my hope. So I'm going to ask you all to repeat after me. I am blooming.
I am blooming
From the wound.
From the womb.
Where I once bled.
Where I once bled.
I am blooming.
I am blooming.
From the wound.
From the womb.
Where I once bled.
Where I once bled.
One more time. I am blooming.
I am blooming.
From the wound.
From the womb.
Where I once bled.
Where I once bled.
All right. Now, our topic tonight is managing anemia, and I'm so excited to talk about this. This is one of the major symptoms of uterine fibroids, and we have two items on our docket this evening. First, I'm going to turn the conversation over to my co-host tonight, Sandrell Apatira. She's also a winning warrior woman, telling us about her journey and how she is managing anemia, one of the symptoms of uterine fibroids. And then after that, we have another warrior woman who's winning her battle against uterine fibroids, DeAndrea Robinson. She's going to be joining us a little later to tell us about her journey. So Sandrell, take it away.
So I want to start by saying, before you get to managing fibroids, recognize, or managing anemia, recognize that it is a progressive declining condition. So I thought that as long as I was managing the physical symptoms of having fibroids, which I get abdominal massages, I do V-steaming, CBD oil rubs, castor oil packs. I was doing all these things to manage the physical aspect of just having an enlarged uterus. And I mean, I am not a doctor or a phlebotomist or, a lab tech. So I go to the doctor to get my blood drawn and, to do the things we regularly do at the doctor. And my doctor, we had a telehealth visit, and she casually mentioned that my hemoglobin and iron was low, and that, she had a little bit of concern, but everything else was fine. So, and that was, I want to say in April, around April. So prior to that, I was symptomatic and did not know. I was, I couldn't think. That was one of the biggest symptoms that I was dealing with, that I did not know was a symptom of anemia. I thought that I was getting older. I thought that I was doing too much. I thought that I was just forgetting things. I thought that, again, I was getting older. You get 40 and you start hearing that everything falls apart at 40. So I'm thinking, oh man, is this how it's going to be? This is not good at all. It was impacting my career. It was impacting my business. It was impacting, my personal life. Things were falling through the cracks. I did not trust myself. I was calendaring everything because I would forget. And prior to it getting really, really bad, I started to even, get in my car to go somewhere and end up somewhere else. And I'm thinking, where are you going? So here I am putting local addresses in my GPS because if I don't, I won't stay on track and know where I'm going. I was lethargic. I would, my laundry, would be piling up, and I would just be lying on the bed looking at it pile up, like, just get up and put one load in the laundry, I did. I started to literally beat up on myself because I thought that it was me. I thought I was being lazy. I went from being on the Stairmaster half hour at the gym to not being able to take 2 flights of stairs in an office building, thinking that I'm just out of shape, So rather than give myself the benefit of the doubt, I beat on myself about all of these symptoms that I did not know were symptoms. And it was, in my opinion, it was very negligent of the medical professionals that I trusted to explain anemia, to explain what the symptoms were, to go deeper into those low numbers. And they didn't do that. So they were negligent. And if I had died subsequently, no one really would have known that there was any medical negligence attached to it, because it's not as if I was on the surgery table or something like that. So medical negligence comes not always from you being in an institution, in a hospital or a doctor's office. It can be just like what I went through, where they're not attending to you. So, but you don't realize that your level of care is low. So you just roll with it, and you think, if they don't make a big deal out of it, I won't. And I didn't, because I did not understand that the amount of flow that I was having in my menses monthly was problematic. I thought, again, I was getting older. So for women who are dealing with fibroids, who are having very heavy menses flow, definitely stay on top of your hemoglobin, stay on top of your iron, because it impacts your life in a multitude of ways, but it's very disruptive, but it's silent almost. So you think it's you, and you might not feel like it's an emergency to address it, but it could become an emergency at any point in time. I was reading a story in a group that I am in, that I found in Facebook for anemia, and this young lady was driving home from work, and she woke up in the trauma center with 2 broken ribs. Her face, bones in her face are broken. She blacked out, and she had no idea that she was in a danger zone as far as her anemia, because there's not like some alarm is going to go off and ring in your head or ring on your phone. When it happens unbeknownst to you. So I'm going to say, if you have fibroids, pay special attention to your labs. Make sure that if your numbers are low, that you demand as best you can, or be willing to foot it out of pocket if you have to, an iron infusion, or just monitoring your blood levels frequently, because it can cost you your life. It can cost you your livelihood. It can cost you your sanity, constantly thinking something is wrong with you, and it's not. I literally was seeing my psychiatrist about it, like, I am forgetting everything. I thought I was falling apart, and I had an anemic crisis. I've been treated for it, and I feel better than I have in over 2 years. So managing anemia is going to be a lot of demanding a level of care that you need, not letting them be dismissive or dismissive, I would say, about your numbers, because they're not just low. There are symptoms attached to that you may not be sick, down sick, but you're sick and you're symptomatic. So don't think it's just you like I did. Make sure you demand a level of care that is going to see your numbers back where there should be, because I guarantee you, you're having symptoms: thinning hair, dry skin, itchy skin. It got to the point that I hated to wear pants because I would itch all the time. Itchy skin is a symptom of anemia. So read up on the symptoms. If you're dealing with fibroids and you are not anemic right now, start looking at those symptoms. So when you start to see some of these things appear, you don't dismiss it yourself. And that's my story. I don't know if anyone has any questions, but I would say, to sum it up, managing anemia is about being watchful and knowing that that's probably one of the #1 symptoms that you're going to have if you're dealing with the issue of fibroids. That's one of the #1 symptoms you're going to have. So be mindful of it, watch your numbers, demand that there be some sort of cure to it. So if you need a blood transfusion or if you need an iron infusion, get it. Don't just let them tell you to take tablets, because tablets have really bad digestive tract effects that you're more than likely, your doctor's going to say, just take some iron tablets. That will not do it for you. So be watchful, know the symptoms, and manage your numbers. I think that's the most important thing in this fight, because it can subsequently kill you, whereas fibroids themselves is not deadly, but you can die from the symptoms of anemia if your blood gets too low.
That's an excellent point. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe now how you're managing anemia and some of the symptoms that you may still be experiencing from it? You said you're getting an iron infusion.
So my infusion was very recent, a few weeks ago. So I haven't yet started to fluctuate, because it was so recent. But one of the things that happened was that scared me so bad. It scared me straight. So I am doing a detox and hormone balancing protocol at the moment. And as a part of that protocol, there's an herbal tonic for iron. That's included in that. So right now I'm taking a tonic twice a day, and that's managing, my iron and my blood levels.
Okay.
In addition to diet.
Okay, excellent. My experience with anemia actually started before I discovered that I had fibroids, and I talked about this a little bit in our conference in July. I went to give blood, and I was not able to give blood because I was told that I did not have enough iron in my blood. And following up with my primary care physician and also with my OBGYN, I found out that I had uterine fibroids. Now during this time also, I had some of the other symptoms. My menses began to change. I noticed a stark change. Like in the first few days of my cycle, my flow became much heavier. And of course, I knew something was awry, and it was gradually over the first few years, it would get heavier and heavier and heavier until at some point I couldn't even go to work on the first day of my menses. I would have to stay home. I would get that rush of blood to where I would need to go to the restroom immediately to take care of myself. And I said, okay, well, if this is happening, no wonder I'm anemic, because I'm losing so much blood. And talking to my mother, who was a pediatric nurse for 30 years, she was like, you aren't necessarily bleeding, you are hemorrhaging. So we have to know the difference between just, okay, it's a rush or a flow, a heavier flow of blood, as opposed to hemorrhaging, because of course that type of blood loss as well is symptomatic of anemia. And I mean, you're losing blood, you're basically dying, you're hemorrhaging, you're dying. And it's an excellent point that you made, that it's not necessarily the fibroids that are life-threatening, but the symptoms. In particular, losing that much blood and then losing the important nutrients like iron that you need to survive.
Let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
Because it was so gradual, did you think that it was outside of the norm?
Yes, when it came to the point where I would literally have to get up from where I was or stop what I was doing to go immediately to the restroom, because I felt the rush so heavily. And then eventually I would just stay home because I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah. And that had started to happen to me, but again, maybe I am just completely clueless. You know, one of those people that are just like la la la, because I thought that, oh, this is what happens when you get older. You know,
I
you get
thought
a
the same
heavier
thing.
flow.
Yeah. I thought the same thing. I thought it was just aging, getting older. Okay, now this is getting ridiculous. This doesn't feel right. I'm lightheaded. I'm passing out. I'm about to pass out in the restroom. This is something is awry here. You know, when
Yeah.
that began to happen, I would say, okay, no, this isn't normal. This isn't aging. This is something that needs to be addressed.
The dizzy spells and the ice, eating ice for me, it was so, it got really bad. Like, I could not go anywhere without stopping first at my favorite gas station to get some ice, or freezing my favorite bottle of water to have ice with me. I wouldn't even want to eat a lot of times. I just wanted to chew ice. And then I started to want like starch, cornstarch.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that the nurse at the hematology center, she told me when she was doing my last infusion, she said, the moment you get a craving for ice, you need to be making an appointment because your levels are low.
I know.
She said that's one of your key indicators that you're getting into a place that you're declining.
Mm-hmm.
So I was grateful for her telling me that, because I thought that I just liked eating ice. Like, you know, it was I just liked it. That's what I kept thinking. Like, hey, my blood is a little low, but I don't have I actually would go as far as say I don't have anemia, because I have a friend who works at a hospital, and she would take the ice from me and she would say, no, you need to go get that checked out. And I would say, well, I just went to the doctor, you know, like and literally it was true. I just went to the doctor and the doctor said it was fine. All my numbers were okay. And she wasn't that, because she had a little concern and that was it. So I defended myself saying, you know, give me my ice back. I just went to the doctor. So no, I don't have anemia, because no one ever said to me, this is anemia. No one ever spelled that out. She just said your hemoglobin and iron numbers are a little low. That's all she said. So I didn't connect that to anemia.
All right. I'm glad also that you mentioned not only about the iron infusion that you're getting, but how to become more knowledgeable about the iron tablets and their benefits or the disadvantages of taking those. Now, I've been free from fibroids since 2014, and I would like to believe that there's been some progress. There's been some progress since then, especially with your experience. It sounds like you're taking a more homeopathic stance toward battling with yours, and that's awesome. My OBGYN at the time, they prescribed iron tablets to me, and it was called Slow Feed, which allows the iron to progressively over the day kind of contribute to your nutrition throughout the day. So you get you take your tablet and it slowly is distributed into your body throughout the day. Now, my struggle with that was that the iron tablets, as you said, it causes issues with your digestive system. With constipation came along with it. So now you have to deal with, okay, taking the iron tablet, and then how do I deal with this constipation? So you have the symptoms and the side effects, and then the side effects to the side effects, right?
Yes. Yes.
To deal.
Yes. And we're already, normally women who have fibroids have issues with their digestive system because our uterus is enlarged, and they kind of are stacked on top of each other. So you're already having digestive issues, right? And then you're taking these tablets thinking, they're going to help.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes the lesser, of the two, where you're going to stop. You don't want to be constipated, because with constipation comes bloating, and you just don't feel good at all. So you're going to stop taking the tablets, but you can't monitor your blood levels the same way you can monitor like diabetes, or it's like that, where you can just do a blood prick and know that, okay, my blood is really low. So you don't have any way of knowing that until you pass out, which is not the best way to find that out when you're driving and moving in the world and you're at work.
Exactly.
So it's the iron tablets for me are a no.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a quick fix that.
There you are. I think somehow you ended up being muted there. I don't know what happened there.
Oh, I was getting a call. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I said it's accepted in the industry to prescribe the tablets, but it's definitely not the best course of action, especially for us with our enlarged uterus and the issues that we're dealing with already.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. And of course, I would encourage everyone on this call to, of course, work with your OBGYN, consult with them, but also listen to your body and advocate for yourself. If something doesn't feel right, if you don't agree with something, be your own advocate. Do not be afraid to speak up. It is your body.
And I will add this: speak up before the crisis.
Yes.
Because when you're in crisis, you cannot advocate for yourself.
Yes.
When I was in my crisis and I'm sitting at the doctor's office short of breath, shortness of breath is a symptom of anemia. So if you are one of the ladies that have a very heavy flow and they've told you that your blood levels are off, or you're experiencing symptoms, even if you haven't been, I would normally go to the doctor once a year, because I would go for my annual PAP, and that was it. I healthy otherwise. I had no other issues. So I had no reason to be, back and forth to the doctor. So if the last time you went to the doctor, your blood levels were fine, but you're being symptomatic, you're losing your breath, you're having a hard time breathing, you're getting dizzy, you're eating ice, you're eating starch, you can't think, you're lethargic, you don't have energy, then you might be wanting to go see, about yourself. But you can't advocate for yourself while you're in the midst of a crisis.
Right.
And that was one of the things. My daughter's 20 years old. My daughter became my advocate, even in her limited life experience. Because at 20, she doesn't, she didn't feel like she had the authority to challenge the doctor. But she was so afraid for me. She literally told the doctor, "Ma'am, we're not leaving until you give us some solutions," because she was afraid. And thank God she was able to do that for me. And it's unfortunate that I was so sick that she had to accompany me to the doctor. But advocating for yourself is looking over your numbers and questioning, why is this low? And if you know why it's low, if you know it's your fibroids, then can we do something before this declines? Because if your blood is low and you're not doing anything to address it specifically, you're declining.
Right.
You're declining.
Right.
It's not staying there. And that's what I thought. When she said your levels are low, it was like 8 something. I thought, okay, that's my level. I didn't think that it fluctuates.
Okay.
I didn't know that it fluctuates. And apparently it does, because by the end of my situation, I had went as low as a 4. And that is unacceptable. I could have literally slept my life away being that low.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sandrell. Is DeAndrea Robinson on the call? Did she make it to the call? All right. In recalling our first meeting last month, I remember that Dawn Stevenson shared with us that she had been anemic for quite a while anyway, and that now she's, of course, also a warrior woman here winning her battle with uterine fibroids. Dawn, would you like to share with us your knowledge about managing anemia, possibly before you knew you had fibroids, and then how that may or may not have changed now that you know that you are battling uterine fibroids?
Well, like I said, I had been anemic forever. I mean, I think even in high school, when I got pregnant with my daughter, my blood count had really got low, and I love to sleep. That my mom would always say, "You're just gonna sleep your life away." So when they came in, it was, they come in at the crack of dawn to check your vitals and different things like that. And the first thing he said was like, your blood count is low. We're gonna have to rush you up to have a blood transfusion. And I'm like, what? And so I was like, no, I need to call my mom. He's like, your mom already said it was okay. And I'm like, no, she didn't, because my family are Jehovah's Witnesses. So, we don't do blood. And so I called her, and she got into a tizzy, called my aunts. One aunt was a nurse and one was a phlebotomist. And they were like, no, she doesn't need that. There's things that they can do. And so when he came back, he was like, okay, we're ready to take you up. And I was like, no, I've already told you no. And he said, well, we've already ordered it. And I'm like, I don't care. And I was 19. And so he basically just said, well, we're not going to be responsible for you if something happens, even if you die. And then he just left the room, and that was the last time I saw him. So after that, did the iron pills, did that for years. I've always been a cold-natured person, freezing to the point of always wearing socks at work. I'd always have a heater, a hand warmer, a massaging chair warmer, foot warmer, those kind of things. Even at work now, I have those things. And I take the iron pills, but like that comes with constipation. And so my husband was saying that, well, maybe just do like every other day, maybe that'll help. But my aunt, a few years ago, she was in a car wreck, and she broke her arm in 3 places. And so they wanted to do surgery, but her blood was low, her iron and stuff was low. And so again, we don't take blood. So, and she lived in a small country town. So one of the people from town that came to visit her and brought her some blackstrap molasses. So I've been taking that. And actually that helped her to get her stuff up so that she could have her surgery. So I usually just put a teaspoon in some hot water a day and drink it. I've heard about the iron infusions. I'm not really sure that. Actually, I don't really have a thought on those. I don't know if I want to do it. I think it's more so taking the time out to go do it. I don't know. It hasn't happened since probably in the last year and a half or so. Because I've had the days where I could hardly stay woke. I had to stay in bed all day. And my husband would just let me be, just let me pull myself back. And it would only take about a day. So, I don't know. I mean, because right now, in the last month, I've been ice eating food every day. I stop and get me some ice, or we have ice here. I mean, I've been really eating ice, and I'm just like, But then I was listening to what Sandrell said, and I was like, oh, okay. But I already knew that ice was associated with that, but I didn't think about it being to the point where I was on that level of being in crisis. Mm-hmm. If that's what I want to call it. So, I've been talking to my doctor, and I actually need to go. I was supposed to go when COVID and all that stuff hit, and I just really hadn't made another appointment. I've done all the blood work and all of that, and that was the only thing that was off with me was my iron. So, I mean, other than the iron pills and the blackstrap molasses, That's pretty much all I'm doing.
And that's what you were doing before you found out you had uterine fibroids?
Not the black strap, just the iron pills. And I was taking those like every day. And then again, you know, like you said, it comes with the constipation. My husband's like, you know, maybe you just need to do it like every other day or every couple of days. But, you know, in my head, to me, that's not helping. Because I feel like you have to take it every day or, you know, but, you know, I take my iron pills, I do the black strap, and then I have my heaters and my socks and all that.
I have my heater and I have my foot massager with the heater in it, and my 2 jackets that I throw across my leg, one across my legs and one over my shoulders. I was doing all of that too.
Yeah. All the time. They'll come around to my cubicle and it's like, are you cold? I'm like, it is freezing in here. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yes. I mean, hands just be freezing.
All right. Well, thank you, Sandrell and Dawn, for sharing your experiences with anemia, managing anemia while you are battling uterine fibroids. I'm going to open the floor up for about 5 minutes for any questions from our audience. Does anybody here have a question for myself, Sandrell, or Dawn regarding our experience in general with uterine fibroids, as well as our experiences for managing anemia?
I have a question. Hi.
Hey, hi, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
I was wondering if anyone had any experience with the at-home iron test for the purposes of monitoring your iron, like, you know, for maintenance.
The at-home iron.
The at-home iron test, I've seen that they sell them online. So I didn't know it, or at the pharmacies, I didn't know if anyone had any experiences with using those as a convenient way to monitor your progress, you know, in between doctor's visits.
No, I am not aware of that, no experience with that. But it sounds like it might be helpful in terms of keeping track of your numbers and not relying on, okay, now I'm eating ice, so I might be near crisis, or, you know, monitoring those types of symptoms. So it sounds like it would be useful. Dawn, what about you?
It does.
Dawn, what about you? Were you aware of that?
I've never heard of that before. I may have to check into it.
Yeah,
is it
same here.
Yes, a Walgreens? Oh, she said it's online.
Right, you can get it at Walgreens or CVS, and it looks like little strips. It looks like maybe, there might be different versions, but it looks like, I'm not even sure what you do if you sit on, like, I'm not really sure how they test it, but it's like in the convenience of your home. So I figured for the cost, you know, you might not be testing every week. I don't know if iron changes that quickly, but it might be a good option for in between visits.
Yeah, it might be. I've never heard of it. I think that would be good.
You can test daily, and then especially if you're getting the lightheadedness and you have any concerns, just something, you know, useful to have to be able to monitor on your own.
Yeah.
Thank you, Renee. Let us know in the future if you decide to do that, what your experience is like with that. I'm sure that'll be helpful to someone else as well.
Certainly. Do you guys, it sounds like you guys meet every month?
Yes, we just started in July, Uterine Fibroids Awareness Month. So this is our second time meeting.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I wanted to tell Dawn, if I can, that I used to do the heater, the little space heater as well. And then one night, I fell asleep. And I woke up and I was so scared, and it kind of scared me into not using it anymore, you know, because of the fire situation. But I learned that since I'm usually really cold in office buildings, and they usually, forbid the space heaters and people sneak them. What I started doing was getting a heating pad and just sitting on it. And it radiates all throughout your body. It's the best thing ever. So maybe you want to try that.
It's a good hack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Stephanie, I have a question.
Yes.
Did you say you had your fibroids removed?
I had a supracervical hysterectomy.
Okay.
Before
So-
that, I was in the hospital for a total of about 2 weeks because at first I had a myomectomy. The doctor removed 4 fibroids. 2 were the size of oranges and 2 were the size of grapefruits. And then in between those 2 surgeries, I consulted with him, and he talked to me. I was still there in the hospital, and that's when he told me, he was like, they've clustered throughout your entire uterus. He told me how large my uterus had expanded. It was actually the size of a watermelon at that time, and was nearing the close to my lungs. And he basically said, I don't see you being able to, have children with this uterus. And this was after I consulted over many years with maybe 2 or 3 additional gynecologists. But at that point, I was in a crisis, and it was time for me to go ahead and take care of what I needed to take care of, because then it was becoming life-threatening with the amount of blood I was losing every month. And then actually at that time, I was pregnant. I was pregnant and having complications with that pregnancy, and miscarried. So that's when everything just happened back to back at that point. And I said, this is enough. That was my 2nd miscarriage. So we did the myomectomy first, removed those 4 fibroids. And after he gave me that information about, if he kept cutting, there really wouldn't be much of uterus left. He doesn't see me being able to have a child with that uterus. I released it. And what I did, and being transparent, before the surgery, I consulted with him, and I told him, if I decide to do this, let's do the myomectomy first. But if push comes to shove and I need to do a hysterectomy, what is going to allow me to be able to, after this is all over, when I am intimate and I'm being transparent, I want to still have pleasure. And that's why we went with the supracervical, because that allowed me to keep my ovaries as well as my cervix. And we are less than a minute finished. I want to thank you so much for joining me. We'll be back again next month with Warrior Women's Fibroids Forum. And I'll be in touch. Thank you so much, everybody. Be blessed,
Good night.
prosperous, and healthy.
Everybody.